Something that I noticed in the Lamarie Project was that clergymen and religious leaders were very accepting of the LGBTQ community, despite Catholic and Protestant religion values and beliefs. Two values that I saw within this reading was respect and doing the right things. Within respect, many of the community people supported Matthew and honored his life despite his values and his morals. And the second value, doing the right thing, even though, like for example, when Aaron wasn't killed by his parents, like Matthew's parents, spared Aaron's life. That was a clear example of doing the right thing, even though like he deserved his punishment of the death penalty. One thing that confused me was capital punishment. So I obviously didn't know what that meant, but capital punishment back then meant like the death penalty. So if you were to commit a crime at the highest ranking or whatever the jury decided was like your highest or the worst crime you could possibly do, that would be the death penalty when I looked it up. Lamarie depicted a small town. Usually when you think of a small town, you don't really think like any crime happens because everybody knows everybody, but within this town it was a little different. Everything was twisted. There was a lot of crime, like such as murder, and there was a lot of protesting. So not something you would usually see in a small town. It is known to have protests, but like especially murders when people know everyone, it's just kind of uncommon to see that. The difference between accepting and tolerance: when you accept something, you're respecting one's actions, and you might even go to the highest like standard and even like go out of your way or do measures where you're like making sure that person is respected. Whereas where you tolerate something, you're more like you just kind of let the actions happen even though you don't really agree with it. You don't really go out of your way, you just kind of like let it happen. So obviously like that showed that opinions were strong back then. So that was really like a big thing. Accepting and tolerance were two big things that were relevant in this reading. So the difference between intimate apparel and this reading was that this reading had a lot more like personal point of views. There was a lot of interviews and like real life conversations. So it was more it was more credible, if that makes sense, because it's coming from firsthand sources. And my two questions are: why did Aaron McKinley plead guilty and not have to worry about the death penalty? Wow, I cannot speak today. And what did the majority of the country think of this trial?